Good evening, everybody. Today is Monday, September 7th, 2020. And this is here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things I remember around St. Catharines and area here. And please excuse me, I'm using a selfie stick for the first time here that I just ordered from Amazon here, so I'm just trying to get it lined up here because I'm just winging it here, just looking at it, and with no sight, so I'm just winging it here. So with that said, I'd like to talk about some things I remember around St. Catharines here, just from way back when, from childhood and stuff, and places I've heard of and have been to and stuff like that. So one of the things, of course, there are two places, most important places, is the Fairview Mall, which I remember from the 1970s, and that is from when I would go to the blind school. Coming home Fridays, I would of course get dropped off at home, but I'd always get taken back there every Sunday, and then get picked up at the Fairview Mall. And it was in the area kind of in front of, well, it's actually in the front part of the mall, sort of behind the area of the Swiss where the Swiss Chalet is now, because back in the 1970s there was not even a Swiss Chalet there when I first started. And where the LCBO is, just next to the mall, on the east side of the mall, or north side, whichever. I think it's, yeah, north or east end of the mall down towards where Zares is. There used to be the, I think, St. Catharines or Niagara Children's Center, I think what it was. It was a long building. I don't know if it was a residence or what it was. But it was in that area where about 4:30, like 4:15, 4:30 every Sunday, various school buses were there to bring some deaf children to take into the deaf school in Milton, as well as the one coming to take some of us blind and visually impaired students to the W. Ross McDonald School. And of course back then that was the Wright House, was the the pink and white building that was pink on the top and with windows, and there were white shutters on the sides of the windows, and then the lower level was of course white, and there was a roof around like the front of the building where you could walk around. So that was the Fairview Mall, and was that way up through the 1990s when they did the major renovations. And I think it was in late 70s, early 80s when they built the first Swiss Chalet, the white one, which they tore down about 10 years ago to build a new current Swiss Chalet there. And the Food Basics at that time was Dominion, and I think it was a little bit smaller, and I think in the late 70s they added on a section of a section to the, I think it was the side towards the QEW, where they added some on there, I think. And or maybe it was, I don't know, but I know they added some on there. And then that was, of course, I think there used to be a service station on the side where I think Harvey's is now, and well, I know there were gas pumps there. And then where the Tim Hortons was, of course, there's nothing. There was 2 rows of pine trees, and I think at some point the city buses stopped sort of in the area where Tim Hortons was. And there were all these little yellow and green islands, like little grassy islands, just maybe a few feet. They weren't really a regular shape. They kind of had cutout. They were kind of L-shaped, sort of cutout shape. I can't really describe the shape of them. It's been so long since I've seen those. But they had those there. And of course, where the PetSmart, YMCA, Home Depot, Costco, that was all field at one time. And also the where Office Max was, I think they've gone out there now, and I think they were Staples most recently. They've now moved into the Fairview Mall in the former Walmart location, and that was all open field at one time. And I think even where Kelsey's is too. That whole cycle from Lake Street on in, that whole section wasn't even there. Now moving to the Penn Center, that's undergone a lot of changes as well. Of course, I had a few videos from about 15 years ago, 14, 15 years ago. I did a couple there. But of course it had been renovated and re-renovated more recently. In the 1990s, did an early like major facelift renovation, and it all used to be sort of like different levels, like there were steps going up to different parts of the mall. And where Zellers was, well, now where Walmart is, down at that end where there was a Zellers there. Of course, that was up to about 5, 6 years ago, whenever the Zellers closed there, and they were Target for a while, but that didn't last long. And before that, even in the old days of the Pen, there was a grocery store in there. There was one time when the mall actually had two grocery stores. That one where Zellers is, that was Loblaws, and up where Zehrs is now at that end, before the mall, before they redid the mall, you kind of went up and then past what was Robinson's. That was, where, of course, where the Bay was. That was Robinson's there. And then past there, there was, it kind of went, and then it kind of went on a slight angle. There was a customer service desk, and then there was, one time there was a grocery store there too, I think. It was, I think, A&P and Dominion's, yeah, I think it was Dominion. Then I think it became Best for Less, along with Fairview Mall also was Best for Less. And then I think it became Howie's Drug Store or something like that. I think it was called in around 1990. And that end would be taken away and replaced with the Zehrs store that's there now. So anyway, and of course that was Robinson's, and Sears was, for the longest time, at one time was Simpson's. And of course Eaton's, that was there until they closed in early 2000, and then they redid that section. Unfortunately, I didn't take any videos there, and the movie inside the Penn Center before, but where the food court is now, that was just a partial area. I think there was a pizza place in there, some kind of something in the middle of the area there, sort of in where the food court is, because the food court used to be, I think sort of it was across from sort of the area by where the Bay is and Robinson's was. That's just a hallway that goes to a back parking lot. I don't know what the entrance it is, but it's just a hallway now. And on the right side there was a few things there. There was an A&W, a few other places as well, and then they had some tables. And there were also a couple stores you could access downstairs. There was Bargain Harold's. That was kind of not far from where the food court was. And also, I think in late 80s they would dig out another spot there where the byway was for the longest time, and then it would become Bulk Barn later, and now it would be closed off, of course. And so that was that. And so anyway, so moving on to other places, of course there was Homestead Donuts when they used to be on Lake Street. And so yeah, Homestead Donuts, and they were on Lake Street. They used to be in a brown building, and above the windows they had little white arch, well, it was the windows, they went down to the ground, or the floor, whichever, and inside like was yellow tiles, or like gold tiles on the floor with green walls, and I think there was wallpaper patterns. I don't remember the pattern, but that was Homestead Donuts. And I think the building, well, I saw it several years ago, it was still there, but it was replaced. What was white was now made black, and I don't know what's there. And then the entrance, there was kind of a white spot which would look like a window, but it was just covered, and it had white, it was sort of white bricks or white, it was something painted white there, but I think that was painted black, and of course that was the entranceway. And you went in there, and there was a cigarette machine in there, so that was Homestead Donuts. And of course, remember the old bus terminal? That was before the MTO building was there. It was just pretty much where it is now, but it was like all the buses all lined up in a row like they do now, but it was just open. And they had the ticket office down at one end, sort of at the end towards the parking garage. And where the horseshoe is, that of course was just, there was a road that went through there. I think it was Academy Street, or yeah, I think it was, or yeah, and that road anyway went right through. Like the out of town buses were kind of at that end there, by a sort of a building, and then there was a row of buildings. There was a restaurant there, I think a coffee shop, a cafe. I don't know what it was called, but it was an independently run cafe. And then the might have been one or two other places, but then yeah, the bus terminal was just your basic. And then when they built the MTO in the mid '90s, it moved over beside the library in Carlisle Street between the police station and the library was blocked off and sort of served as the bus platforms. And I think they just I think they repainted lines and they had a thing going across like crosswalk sort of painted. And I know I remember seeing it in recent, well, about several years ago, I remember seeing like in the early 2000s, I started to see traces and markings of the walkway still just barely visible. But it was a portable building kind of just behind the library in the parking lot there. It was a white building, and so I think it was one of those portable buildings that would just like prefab buildings. And so there was that. Of course, downtown St. Paul Street, of course, a lot of changes over the years. There used to be Sam the Record Man there. It's about where the front of the MTO building is. And then Mr. Sub was there, kind of up there. And there was other places too. Of course, remember the Hobby Shop. I can't remember exactly where that would have been, but they were on St. Paul Street. And Welland Avenue, where you go under the QEW. I know they redid when they were doing the QEW in the early 2000s, they redid some of the overpasses and reconfigured them. And I remember in I think it was 81 or 82 when they put a pedestrian tunnel in, when they were first building this pedestrian tunnel. And it was on the, I think it was on the east side of Welland Avenue that went underneath the QEW. And so there was probably about 10 or 15 feet between the tunnel and the roadway. So there was that there. And then of course that would disappear in early 2000s when they redid the underpasses, and I think they widened them a little bit or what they did, but they pretty much disappeared. The tunnel disappeared. And something else that's a little off the beaten path, if you were growing up in the 1980s, I don't know if you knew the 406, sort of where Welland Avenue passes over the 406 and becomes 4th Avenue. Over there behind the area of the Hotel Dieu and an apartment building, I think it's 165 Ontario Street, there is an area, there was a gravel pathway that walked along, I think it was 12 Mile Creek, and you could actually get close to the 406 highway. And in the structure, because the way that it was built, it was fairly, like the roadway was on the top and it was pretty thick, but there was this something called the thoth, Thoth, and the reason it was referred to that is somebody had spray painted on the side of the 406. I remember going with a friend of mine, Chris Reed, I think his name was. He lived here in St. Catharines, and he showed me this thoth. It was like you went up the side of the 406. There was a part where you could actually get in. There was an opening in the structure, and you could get in there. You could sort of climb up in there, and you could sort of go. And I don't know if it went through to the other side of the 406 or not. Maybe somebody watching this might know better than I do. But if you're old enough to remember this, that is, it may still be there if it's even accessible. But anyway, you would climb in, and then there was this, like on the one side, there was an opening. You'd have to actually crawl, and you had to sort of climb up and crawl in through this opening. And there was a metal gate, and I think it was supposed to be locked, but I think it had been pried open. I don't know if it was deliberately pried open or been left open. But you could actually go in, and then inside it was actually hollow, and you could, of course, it was not lit up. You have to bring your own light, and I think I used a glow stick. And then we went in there. I was just like my head touched the ceiling, and it was about so probably about 6 feet tall, or just, and it was hollow. I don't know what purpose it served, but it was just an opening, and it was just been hollowed. It was hollowed out. So there's that. And of course, oh goodness, there's so much more. There could be a second video for this more, but someplace I'd heard about and never actually went to myself was a roller skating place. I think it was on Hartzell Road. It was called the Saints. It was a roller rink. I think it was 2 levels. I think from what I've been told. Um, so I think a lot of the young people used to hang out there. And so there was that. Oh gosh, the Lincoln Mall was very different. That was totally changed and actually shut down in the late 90s. Where Walmart was, that used to be a Woolco store. And in there, like that, like Woolco, on the one side you could go into a mall, and the part of the building's still there, the original part was there, but there was an addition put on the mall, I think in 1977, where there was a Shoppers Drug Mart, Bargain Harold's, Pathway, a Double N restaurant, other stores. I think Sunrise Records was sort of in that section, Crazy Lee's, oh gosh, I don't remember all the stores that were there over the years, but I can remember even going back to even before that expansion was built. It was a gray floor, and there was carpeting in there, sort of in the kind of in the middle sections where there were benches. There was carpeting in there, and of course Radio Shack was in there too. It was in the original section, and there was a grocery store at the other end, sort of in the area where No Frills is now. But in the early 1980s, I think that closed off, and they made more stores in there, a section with a few more stores. So, folks, my apologies if this thing keeps moving here, just trying to hold this thing here. Like, I'm not used to using this for the first time, so if I just see my head gets cut off the top or bottom, my sincere apologies here. But anyway, going on, so they made some stores, more stores there. Later on, and the expansion, of course, that was, and then there was, oh yeah, and then the middle, sort of the top part, sort of near the restaurant there at the end, the western side, towards where No Frills is now. There was an entrance there. There was like a snack bar type thing there. I don't know what the name of the thing was, but anyway, the snack bar was there. And so, and then the Tim Hortons were like, there are 2 entrances. There was the main entrance, which of course was covered over by or no, it was still accessible from the outside, but there was another door was made beside it, and it had the gold metal part, like the shiny gold. It was made into an opening where you could go directly into the mall from the Tim Hortons. So there was that, and then of course the movie theaters were there until early 2000 when they knocked those down. That's about, I think, where the Bulk Barn and I think there's the Sunset Grill's there, and I think there's the Sunset Grill I know is there, and a few other things as well. And that's where the Wendy's Tim Hortons is combined, because where the Tim Hortons used to be where the Dollarama is now, and Wendy's was across. It's now sort of in the area where the car wash is by Canadian Tire. Because when they first did that new Wendy's Tim Hortons, they put a Subs Plus in there. Like the Wendy's moved out of that, and the building had a sub place in there for a while before Canadian Tire put knocked that down and put a car wash in that area. And of course the plaza that's still there. That's where there was a Radio Shack there, Sunrise, and Pennington's, and I think that's where End of the Roll is, if there still are there. But there was a Stanford Delicatessen and all that there. So, and then remember Niagara Falls, thinking about, actually still in St Catharines, remember Prudham's Landing with Wet and Wild, the bumper boats, the bumper cars, Tivoli World, which was a miniature world, which was kind of like, had small scale models of various international buildings, even the CN Tower, Parliament Hill, the White House, the Egyptian pyramids. Those were there at Tivoli World. There was a train that went through there as well, and so it was kind of neat experience. And then they had some monkeys and some animals and a play area, a roller skating area, outdoor roller skating. And of course, like I say, Wet and Wild, the bumper boats, the bumper cars. Of course, Wet and Wild had the wave pool and the water slides and all that fun stuff. So that was the St. Catharines, so some of the things remembering. Niagara Falls had, of course, Pyramid Place before they went out several years ago. And I think early in the year, I think it was January or February, had a news release saying that not the Pyramid Place itself, but the building beside it, where they had entertainment like games and stuff like that and other entertainment, that was being torn down because of a hotel being put up there. Like Niagara Falls has become so full of hotels now. And I think the Pyramid building itself used to be like a 6-story high movie theater, and I think that's what's IMAX. So I don't know if it's still IMAX or what the future of that is right now. And of course Marineland, of course they've under Dragon Mountain, of course the whale shows, and so yeah, it's interesting. And so then there was that. Maple Leaf Village is another one that's been long since defunct now, which is where I think, yeah, Casino Niagara is in there now. That was the first casino in the 90s. They went into what was formerly Maple Leaf Village, and the observation tower and the big Ferris wheel and all that. And that was, and of course they had some rides out there too, and so, and I think the Ferris wheel, I don't know, because I think there's a large wheel, I don't know if that's the same Ferris wheel that was below, that was on the Maple Leaf Village site or what, I don't know. But anyway, there was that. Skyline Tower, of course it's still, as far as I know, still running. The Panasonic Tower, Minolta Tower, that was the smaller of the two observation towers. And so aside from the Maple Leaf Village, also had its own observation tower. And yeah, and the Minolta Tower, I think, was originally the Panasonic. Then the Minolta Tower, and I would find out some years later it would be a hotel, I believe. So, that was that. So anyway, and of course a lot of like those are the ones I personally remember. Oh yeah, and then there was Dufferin Islands too. I remember Dufferin Islands. I think it's still there, but they don't. I don't know if they do use anything. I think you just walk through there. There used to be like they used to have paddle boats there, and there was an area where you could actually go swimming, too, which I thought was neat. So there was that, and so and then so with yeah, there I could say with Dufferin Islands. Oh gosh, what else? There's probably more. Like I say, this may go into a second, may do a part 2. I don't know. If I think of more, watch here. I mean, so I don't know if there will be, but you know, if you like, subscribe if you haven't already, and watch back here. So I think then Niagara on the Lake. Of course, I grew up in Niagara on the Lake, and even that's changed. I mean, it's always been touristy, but now it's just all bed and breakfasts and. Used to be CNC Yachts, the boat factory on Ann Street, and that's been, now it's all townhouses there and all this development that's gone up over the years. And it's all, unless you're a tourist, and there never really has been much for young people to do in Niagara on the Lake itself. But now, unless you're a tourist from somewhere, you don't know. Right now, of course, as of this recording, 2020, is during the COVID season. I think a lot of these places, whatever is still going, is probably not so well. So I think that does it. I hope this all got on here okay. And again, my apologies if you only see part of my face or something like that. And on this video, I tried to hold as steady as I could. Maybe would have been better to do a camera, like because this selfie stick also has a tripod as well, like also has a tripod functionality as well. So anyway, there may be more, so like as I said, watch this space for more vintage, like more memories around St. Catharines and area.